Assalamu alaikum, everyone, once again. Alhamdulillah, we are honored today to have among us Sheikh Salim Yusufali. A little bit of a background about him. Sheikh Salim was born and raised in the United States. After completing his bachelor's and master's in computer science from Stanford University, California, he worked in the Silicon Valley as a software engineer and then an engineering manager in the Bay Area. In 2004, he left his job and moved to Qom to study in the Hausa and completed his master's in the Al-Mustafa University in 2014. From 2014 to 2019, he was a spiritual guide for a private full-time Islamic school in the Ontario, Canada. And as of July 2020, he is the Dean of Mission at Rise Academy and the Assistant Resident Alim of the Sabah Islamic Center here in the San Jose, California. He's also pursuing a PhD, doctorate degree in educational leadership from the Western University. Without any further ado, I would like to invite Sheikh Salim Yusufali, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope that everyone is doing well. May Allah reward you all for your interest in and your desire in education and Islamic education and being part of tarbiyah and ta'aleem and education and upbringing of our next generation. It's my honor to be with you for this seminar, and I wanted to thank Al-Kisa Foundation for enabling this opportunity. Inshallah, the topic that I will be covering, actually, let me just go ahead and pull up the screen here, and then I'll explain the topic. Let's see, Okay, so the topic I'll be covering is the influence of media on children, guidelines and strategies for educators. And the format is going to be that I'll be presenting slides, and there will be times where I will be asking for some comments, but in order to enhance the interactivity and also to just get feedback and to kind of hear some thoughts from you all. But it will be limited because we have a lot to cover and we have limited time. And then inshallah, at the end, I will also try to leave some time for any general comments or questions. At any time, you're welcome to use the chat window if you want to just mention something, comment or ask a question, that's fine as well. As I was putting together the slides, I realized that this is actually, it could be a whole course of its own because there's so much to talk about. So I've really tried to kind of focus on those things which I feel are really important, and inshallah we'll try to do the best with what we have. Okay, so I'm going to begin with inspiration from the Quran. Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hadid, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا ثم يكون حطاما وفي الآخرة عذاب شديد ومغفرة من الله ورضوان وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. In this verse, Allah Ta'ala describes the stages of growth for normal human beings. What is it that human beings normally are occupied with? What is it that they live for? So when you have children, they're very much into diversion and play. And when typically they get a little bit older, then it becomes the idea of zina and of being attracted by worldly things and being a source of attraction for oneself and others. And then tafakhur, meaning mutual kind of pride and priding oneself and lording oneself over the others. And what takathur, meaning just acquisition and more acquisition and consumerism. And then the idea of possessions and children and family. But Allah says that all these things are temporary, all these things are passing. What where reality is in the akhirah. And there's three options: adabun shadid wa maghfiratun min Allah wa ridwan. And perhaps you could combine the last two into one. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Our job as educators is to teach the students that about the akhirah and to prepare them for that, and to help them navigate through the stages of the dunya and not to be sucked in by the dunya. Now, when we're talking about the media, right now, especially because of the pandemic, I think in most, if not all, countries in the world, we have, it's become an issue which is very much prominent in the lives of our children, because many of the students are learning partially or fully online. Many parents not knowing what to do with their children because of the limitations of the lockdowns and whatnot. Many parents have allowed more screen time for their children, and so, alhamdulillah, in a way, like a great opportunity for us to be able to talk about this right now. Is very relevant. But to connect it to the verse, we also have this portal right here, which can be very much a portal into the dunya, and those different things that stages and different attractions of the dunya that were mentioned in that verse. And so we have to be aware of the nature of this screen and the media that's portrayed on it, and what effect does it have on our students, and how can we help them in this process. So just to keep in mind our overall goal, when it comes to being involved in the development of children, it's really this right here, preparing for, inshallah, the soon arrival of the Imam of our time, Imam al-Hujjah, Ajala Farjuh al-Sharif. And really, when it comes to this topic, when I first started looking into it, it came about because of this, that how is it that we can ourselves prepare for the coming of the Imam? How can we prepare our next generation to be among the true, the helpers and, inshallah, the companions of the Imam? And can the two come together? Can it be the case that somebody is being exposed to media, but yet they're still they're still in that development process of being able to, inshallah, be a companion of the Imam? So these are some of the, just keeping in mind, trying to give a focus and a purpose and intention behind our discussion here. I did want to mention, for those of you who are interested, that in the last few months, we had an opportunity to do a few seminars on the topic of the pandemic and parenting and media. And these are all available on YouTube under the Rise Academy YouTube channel. And in particular, when it comes to media, there was a seminar on screens and social media. And then there's one about screens and video games. So in this seminar today, I'll be looking at it from the perspective of educators. In those two seminars, I was looking at it from the perspective of parents. But my experience has shown that oftentimes teachers are also parents. And when we talk about these matters, a lot of times there is some learning that takes place even when it comes to how do we treat our own kids, and that we have to start at home, right? And so if we're able to at least understand as parents what we need to do, then we can be more effective even when it comes to other people's children. In terms of the content, there is some overlap though, because at the end of the day, there is some similarity, but there's content here that doesn't appear in those seminars, and there's content there that doesn't appear here. Okay, so what are we going to talk about, inshallah, today? There's four different characteristics of screen media that I want to speak about. What I mean by screen media are things like movies and shows and video games and social media, like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. When we talk about all these things that are being consumed by our students, what are four characteristics that I feel are important to highlight and for us to kind of explore as educators? Number one is the idea of materialism, and I'll explain each one of these, inshallah. The second one is the idea of the animalistic side of human beings being brought out through the media. The third one is individualism. And the fourth one is the addictive and destructive qualities of the media that's being portrayed. Now, my format is going to be, inshallah, I'll be presenting some slides about each one of these topics. And then I'll be presenting some questions and taking some feedback from you all based on the contents that we talked about. But, like I mentioned earlier, that it will be limited in scope, but that will, inshallah, be something that will also bring about like a kind of break. It won't just be me talking the whole time. So let's go ahead and Bismillah, we're going to begin with this first aspect. I do want to just make a disclaimer here that if you do have children who are with you right now, there are a few videos, there's nothing inappropriate, but there are videos that, especially for younger children, it's not it's not the best thing for them to be watching. And I'll try to make note of it before I show the video. But it's just better, some of these topics are just better not heard by younger children, because at the end of the day, we're trying to teach, like what's wrong with these things. And so, these are things which are best said in their language, not necessarily the language that's used for their parents or for educators. So screen media promotes materialism. Now this, how can, the question is this, that how can the material represent the immaterial? If you think about it, what happens on a screen? Okay, you have images that are moving, you have different drawings and photos, and they're talking and they're walking and doing different things. And a lot of people don't think about this. They say that, well, if you ask a question, well, what is, you ask them, okay, well, is media good or bad? They'll say, well, it depends on what you use the media for. If you use it for good things, then it's good. If you use it for bad things, then it's bad. Okay, fine. That's not a wrong statement. But when we're talking about what something is about, whether it's good or bad, we have to look at what the purpose of it is. Like, what was screen media created for? And this is something that we have to really understand. So here, it's a short clip which is going to show how through popular films throughout the decades, they've tried to portray God. Now, God is the being who is absolutely, completely mujarrad, like completely immaterial. He is not limited by matter. He's the creator of matter. He's immaterial. But you'll see how these different filmmakers, when they want to present God, they are limited because they are using a medium which is fundamentally meant for presenting material things. So take a look at this, and then inshallah, think about this idea of portraying the immaterial.
Oh my God. Wait a minute. Oh my God. I mean, are you God?
Oh yeah.
I'm the one.
I am the God of your ancestors.
Alpha and Omega.
The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac.
I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur the Chaldees.
Oh, thank God.
You're welcome.
I am the supreme being. I'm not entirely dim.
Think of me as your probation officer.
Oh, don't grovel. One thing I can't stand is people groveling.
Sorry.
How do I convince anybody that I've actually seen you?
Show them this.
You are the first.
And this.
So in each one of these, every portrayal of God that they had was limited, because either God, na'udhu billah, took the form of one of his creations, or his sound, his voice, was presented like he was talking, like with a voice like that. And it's something which, at the end of the day, because they're trying to portray something that goes beyond the material world. They wouldn't get viewers if they didn't use these type of things. They want to make it interesting. They want to keep them engaged. So this is just one example of how there's something about screens and the media that's present, which is where it focuses on the material.
Oh my God.
Now, this is something which is not new. Many religions of the past, like their deviation, or even those which aren't even religions, but they're more spiritual traditions, their deviations have come up because of this issue, because they've struggled with this idea that how can we worship a God whom we can't see. They've been so caught up with their sense perception. And so that's why you see, if you go to a Hindu temple, if you go to a Catholic church, if you go to a Buddhist temple, you see that they always have these icons that or avatars that they are focusing on. Now, the Quran tells us what? يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. Most people, they are familiar and aware of the zahir of this low world. But there's something else out there. There's a reality out there which goes beyond it. And most people are in a state of heedlessness about that. So the screen media that's being beamed at our children, it is pushing them into this, okay? The dhahira min al-hayat dunya. And it's this ghafilun part, which is something which should be of great concern to an educator here, which is that if I know that, my students are spending hours and hours a day, on a medium which is very material, then what can I do to make sure that they don't remain in this ghafla, and I can find ways of bringing them out of it. Now it applies to even, the idea of like our purpose and what are we created for. We were created not for this dunya, we're created for the akhirah. But again, from film and screens, the akhirah is something which is very hard for them to present, because the akhirah goes beyond the world. So what are they forced to do? This is the movie based on the famous book. It was called, it was the work by Dante, which was the Inferno, where he presents hell, and you can see here that hell, here's supposed like the big sort of devil that's guarding hell. It's something which is all based in the world itself. Whereas we're told that, like, even if a drop of zakum were to, or a drop from the boiling water of hell were to fall into earth, everyone would die because of its stench. And that the reality of the torment of the hellfire and its ugliness and its painfulness and the regret that somebody will feel, it goes way beyond whatever can be measured in this dunya. The same thing applies to heaven. This is a cartoon where you can see that they're trying to show like what is heaven actually like. So let's see. Okay, so he almost got it, but he didn't quite get it, right? So you can see here that heaven is just basically whatever it is that's in this dunya, but just in a better form and bigger form and more accessible. Again, it's all about matter, objects, things. Whereas even though the description of heaven in the Quran do involve things like let's say fruits and trees and rivers, but each one of these, Allah Ta'ala says that yes, you have them, but Allah also says in hints at different places in the Quran that this is just words and kind of things that I'm giving you in order for you to help you understand, but the reality is something better, and there's something which is even greater than all of that, which is the verse that we began with, وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ, or وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, or another verse, وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ, meaning that the pleasure of Allah. So again, I'm the point I'm trying to make is that the nature of the screen has always been that it's something which is focusing on the material. Now, I'll give you a very specific example of this, which is in the form of superheroes. The two most popular superhero companies are DC and Marvel. And I don't know how, on an international level, like whether they are as well too. I'm speaking from my context here, but I think it's likely that they're popular wherever you may be as well. Now, why are these people superheroes? You know, if you just look at these pictures, it's because of their strength, right? It's because of their physique. It's because of how high they can jump. It's because of how they can see. It's because of how fast they can move. It's because of how much money they have. Like, it's very interesting. A lot of these superheroes, the ones that have like a dual identity, they're millionaires or, you know, very wealthy people. And or it's because of, you know, something that, like, for example, when it comes to Spider-Man, I think some bite of a spider. In any case, if you look at it, all of these figures are super typically because of they're like they take on whatever physical characteristics of a human being, and they have them, but at a higher degree than the normal human being. Now, and which is very natural and it fits very well with the screen, because, you know, you can make an incredible video about somebody jumping high or leaping or whatever it is, right? But then when you look at, you know, the examples that we have, you know, in our religion, you know, when you talk about the awliya of Allah, the prophets throughout history, yes, they had miracles, and yes, it's important to talk about those miracles on the physical level, like the Imam Ali alayhi salam's strength, and for example, you know, even other stories we have of the imams, for example, Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam and the archery competition and others. But even the prophet's strength in battle, for example, and these are all important to talk about. But even when Imam alayhi salam, for example, he's asked later on about how is it that you were able to lift the gate of Khaybar, he says that was not with my own strength and my physical strength. That was with like the ruhani strength, meaning that the spiritual strength that I had. So this idea of being a spiritual warrior, of being somebody who has, who is a superhero because of their taqwa, the idea of being a superhero because of somebody's dhikr of Allah, because of the constant awareness they have that they're in the presence of Allah. These are things which are very difficult to capture in a screen. And, you know, you can see anyone who has experience working with children, you know how attractive these type of figures can be to our children, to the point where it's very easy for them to be more attached to them than they would be to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam. Now, somebody might say that, well, what about if you use the screen for like something like a lecture, right? Like, or, you know, we have an educational seminar or whatever. And I'm not saying that, you know, a screen can't be used for that. Of course, there are very legitimate uses of a screen. And I'm not saying that all of this is haram. But I'm just saying that what we need to do is we need to be aware of the nature of the screen and what is it, the type of media that's going to be promoted in that. So I want to take a moment and just pause here for just a few minutes, just keeping in mind time and the content that they want to cover. What are some of the practical implications for educators? So I have these questions here, which I'm asking them, and I have they're kind of biased questions. Like I say, there are questions which there's a purpose behind them. But I wanted to see if you guys all had anything to say about this just for a few minutes. So question number one is, well, given that screens and screen media promotes materialism, what types of concepts will be difficult for children to grasp, and what can be done about this? How can reasoning and appreciation of the immaterial be promoted? And how should the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam be presented to children? Okay, and I think this is Sister Farha has a question or a comment. Go ahead, sister.
Actually, Assalamu alaikum. That was my mistake. By mistake, I raised the hand.
No problem.
Inshallah, the coming time I will definitely.
Sure, no problem. Okay. Okay, yes. So do we have anybody who would like to offer any thoughts about any of these comments, questions?
I have a question, brother, please.
Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
So my
salam.
question is, if you could please elaborate on the material aspect, like how it promotes materialism, apart from limiting Allah and Nurani personalities like Ahlul Bayt to, you know, figures in material. How else does it promote materialism, please? Thank you.
So what I mean by materialism here is, you know, the love and appreciation and even worship of matter, okay, and obsession with like matter, with things, with worldly things, and you know the examples of this are many, and inshallah throughout the seminar, like some of the other, I'll be giving many examples of this, whether it be you know, the types of things that are popular on social media, whether it be, for example, unboxing videos. You know, who's the most popular YouTuber of 2020? It's a kid who opens up toys, right? So, or whether it be like, you know, like who is it who's always been like the most popular actors? They tend to be the people who are most physically, you know, attractive, right? And there's a reason for that. So I'm saying that, like, when you have, like, when you're trying, like, your focus, like your focus is what, like you have a, you know, what is your stage? Your stage here is like a screen, and the screen is meant to promote like objects and images and matter. So that's, yeah. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Go ahead, please.
Jazakallah, Sheikh, for your presentation. This is very interesting and definitely needed for us. So I don't know if mine is a question or a comment. So you're saying what types of concepts will be difficult for children to grasp? What can be done about this? Yes, it is very difficult when you're teaching to children who have not reached, you know, that development of the mind. So they actually need to see something in a materialistic form. So what we do is, especially for the younger ones, we do show cartoons sometimes. Like there's one about the mother of Imam Mahdi, alayhi salam. It's called Princess of Rome. So they kind of get an idea of, you know, how the mother of the Imam was. Or we show them cartoons about the Ahl al-Bayt, which is on the Shia platforms. It is kind of hard to present to them and, you know, to explain to them how, you know, their personalities or their characteristics. But when they see a cartoon, you know, as long as it's a cartoon that's, you know, within the boundaries, it makes a lot of a difference when I see it with my students. They enjoy it, they understand it much better, you know, they really love it. And how can reasoning, and the other one was, like I said, how should the Ahl Bayt be presented to the children? I think cartoons and movies, you know, I think it makes a big impact on them as long as it's within the boundaries, because for some reason, you know, this day and age, they really like to see, they like to use the media for them as a means of understanding. But I'm not sure. What's your point of view, you know? Or...
I'm really glad you brought up these issues, and thank you so much for sharing that, sister. I have specific comments about what you said right now, and I am going to inshallah offer them. But what I want to first do is I want to hear from Brother Murtaza and Sister Asima, and then with my apologies to the others who I'm sure have great thoughts to contribute, I'm going to have to go on just because of time reasons. But let me hear from them first, and then inshallah I will come back to Sister, I don't know, Wahida or Wahida's comments. Wahida. Okay, so go ahead, Brother Murtaza, and then Sister Asima.
Assalamu alaikum. I found it become difficult for students to understand from where we have come, why we have come, and how we have come to this earth. This concept need to be clear in a different way, but at that beginning age, students, the children, they do not understand the motive or the reasons behind this.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. That's That's a very, very valid point. Yes. Okay. And go ahead, Sister Asma.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I'm kind of taking all three questions into consideration. What I believe is, in my opinion, the abstract ideas are very difficult for kids to understand. The subtle ideas like honesty, justice, love, and immaterial ideas. Where is God? Who is God? Where is? How can I see God? These kind of ideas are very difficult for kids to understand. And as you did, we can do a lot of activities with kids to make them understand this thing, like doing things with experiment or interact in an interactive way, so that they can understand the concepts and things. Like if you show videos to them and then ask them, what did you see in the video? How can you think this? What is your opinion about this thing? So making them think, making them think about the ideas and concepts and go beyond what they saw, that can help them in reasoning and understanding the immaterial that we want to promote. And this is also the way we can present Ahlul Bayt to them, like we can tell them, not just tell, okay, this is Imam Hussain. We have to present Karbala or all the aspects of Ahlul Bayt in such a way that kid is able to understand. Whatever the age of the kid is, we have to take that in consideration, and according to their age, we have to tell the story of Ahlul Bayt, the vision of Ahlul Bayt, the mission of Ahlul Bayt, according to their age, so that they can understand the language, the idea, the presentation should be according to the age of the kid that we are catering these ideas.
Thank you so much, Sister. I appreciate your comments and the others, and my apologies to those. I'm sure that others had something to say, but I just want to address some of the things that were mentioned. First of all, brothers and sisters, ask yourself this question. Children, when they are presented with cartoons, or movies, what is the reason why they sit back and they watch them on the screen? Okay, for the most part, it's entertainment and purely entertainment. Number one. Number two, the amount of money that goes behind producing attractive media like cartoons and movies is staggering. Okay, and when anybody does an amateur job, it's not going to be able to compare to what these other people are doing. Okay, so if you look at these two characteristics, and there's more that we could talk about, but just these two, you could say that, well, if you're going to, if the primary way of teaching about, let's say, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam or Islamic concepts is going to be through cartoons and through films and movies, then probably not going to be as effective as you like. Why? Because the children aren't used to, like, if they're watching a story, whatever, it's mostly going to be for entertainment purposes, not for deeper thinking and reasoning and these type of things. And also when it comes to the quality, it's going to be very hard to come up with something like really good. Now, I'm not saying that don't show, or that we shouldn't be putting in efforts to produce our own media. I'm just saying that we need to understand what the place of it is. It has a certain role, but we shouldn't feel that we're dependent on it. My personal experience working with children, by being with them for a number of years, has been that they really respond well to storytelling. When you, as an educator, you tell the stories, and it's been amazing, how sometimes the stories that we tell, they will remember them many years later. And I find that there's no way that I can show them a cartoon and have it have the same effect on them, because the cartoon does look at it in a different way. So storytelling is very important, and I've been on average for the last 7 years, I tell a story, at least one story a week, if not 2 or 3, to different assemblies and schools and all that. And I rarely have repeated, meaning that there's so much out there. There's so many stories in the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, and it's something which really I found to be effective. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when it comes to the experiments and activities, I really appreciate that comment. I think there's a lot of concepts that we can present in terms of an experiment and something that children can see. And we see that in the lives of the Ahlul Bayt. For example, we have like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he wanted to explain Tawbah, he explained it with the analogy of a tree that's has its leaves falling down. Or you've heard about like the idea of small sins like twigs in the desert, and many other such examples that can be used to kind of explain these concepts. But the main thing is, I think there's a lot of power when you do it as an experiment, as opposed to just being like a show on TV or a movie or something like that. When it comes to movies and TV shows also, you'll notice that there's a difference like in the way that things are presented. For example, if you ever watch the series on Maryam salamu alayha, which for kids would be hard for them to maybe appreciate it until a certain age, but it's very beautiful because the way that the focus is a lot on like the trying to teach messages from the Quran through the movie. And the key points, a lot of times it's just based on the verses of the Quran. Whereas there could be another way of doing it where it's all visual, but then that deeper point isn't conveyed. Okay, so the last point I wanted to mention about the Ahlul Bayt is that we do need to talk about the fadail of the Ahlul Bayt a lot, because if we don't, then it's going to be these type of figures and others who are going to be most attractive to our children. And we need to talk about their fadail in all levels, like the miracles that they performed, the feats of power, and the feats of knowledge, and their charity and their wisdom, and how they help different people and how they solve problems, and also their spiritual status. And this is something which that educators need to like have a focus on. Like they themselves should appreciate this of the Ahlul Bayt, and then they should be talking about it with their students. And the superhero-ness of the Ahlul Bayt is something which can't be compared to the superhero-ness of these other figures. Okay, so the second theme, and I am going to be taking a break here at the 20 marker because that's when I think some of you will have to do the salah. So inshallah, we have about 7 minutes before then. Is that screen media promotes animalistic side of human beings. Now, again, my request is for you to think, to like, let's say some of these ideas maybe are not standardly talked about. So my encouragement is to think beyond maybe whatever the normal way of thinking about it is. This is an image that many of you have seen before, the idea of evolution as a way of, as the means by which human beings were created. Now, according to that understanding, according to that theory, the theory of evolution, human beings descended from apes and monkeys and whatnot. One of the outcomes of this theory, at least the way that it could be understood, is that human beings and animals, they're not too much of a difference, and human beings are just sophisticated animals. And if we look at this quote from Walt Disney, the founder of Disney, the company, he says that, he was asked like, well, why is it that Mickey Mouse was like the first sort of popular figure of Disney. Why is it that he's never shown as eating cheese? He's a mouse after all, so a mouse should be eating cheese, right? So the reason is, he says that cheese makes Mickey seem like a mouse. He's not really a mouse, he's really more a human. Now, why is it that Walt Disney wants to portray a mouse who's actually a human? This is something that we need to think about deeply. These are pictures of pets throughout history of famous cartoons. You'll recognize here, of dogs in particular. There's Snoopy, Snoopy, and you have, I don't know, Goofy and Scooby-Doo, and the other ones I don't really recognize. They weren't in my time, or I never saw them. The Dalmatians, whatever it may be. Benji, one of these is Benji, I think, as well. Whatever. Okay, now, these are figures that children, when they watch these shows, they come to like love them. Now, and from this comes this culture of like pets. Now, what is the culture of pets? Now, obviously this is a cultural thing, and I can't speak for the culture of other places. I can only speak the culture that I'm familiar with. But at least here, pets are often elevated to the level of a family member. You'll have families who will pour more money into their pets than, if they could easily save many people from starving to death in the world if they were to use that money for that. And they adore their pets more than they adore their children. Oftentimes, maybe they don't even have children because they have pets. And it's this idea of elevating an animal to the level of a human being. And part of it is the pet culture that's promoted through media. Now, what is behind this? What is behind it? Again, now this is another example of what's called anthropomorphic animals. Animals that talk and cook and knit and sew and wear clothes and whatnot. By the way, they did a study about books that try to teach morals through using anthropomorphic animals, and they concluded based on that study that there's no benefit in doing so. It's not like that the children actually learn more when they look at animals that do things rather than human beings. And in fact, they were suggesting that if they were to show human beings, it would be even better. Now, what is the, again, like, what is it that when you start blurring this line between animals and human beings, and what happens then? So if we ask this question, well, what are the most popular genres of clips, films, and broadcasts? Like, what is it that people use media for typically? If you look at statistics, it's these types of things. So comedy, music, dancing and singing and lip singing and these type of things, gaming, horror, haul videos, trying out beauty, fashion, these type of things, unboxing, like gifts, pranks, and practical jokes and these type of things, and recipes. Now, all of these things, from a perspective of what the teachings of our faith, all of these things are appealing to the animalistic side of a human being. I want to quote here Imam Khomeini rahmatullahi alayhi from his work 40 Hadith. He says that you should know that with his wisdom and authority, Allah has created certain powers and faculties in the invisible world of the inner self. They are of enormous benefits to us. Here we'll mention 3 of them: al-wahmiya, al-ghadabiyya, ash-shahwiyya. Now, each one of these, typically, they appeal to these characteristics, but they don't appeal to the human aspect of a human being, which is their aql, okay, their power of intellect. And this is very important for us to understand, that there's this blurring that's going on, and it's part of of being able to exploit the human being and make money off of them, and whatever other purposes that the media companies have when making this media for human beings. Okay, it is 8:20 right now. We are going to pause, inshallah, for 10 minutes, and we will resume our discussion it's 8:20 in my time, whatever time it is yours. We're going to resume in 10 minutes, inshallah. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we're going to go ahead and continue. My point is what? That when the message is given to the people who are watching the screen, that you are but a sophisticated animal, your hum and gham, your purpose of being is to just, to satisfy that thing you have within yourself called your shahwa, that attraction and towards things which you find beautiful, where your goal is to satisfy your ghalab, that need to repel things which you dislike. when it's to like satisfy the needs of your imagination. That's something that when you tell somebody that, then the screen media is really fit for being able to capture somebody, because that's what they want to spend time with. That's what they think of themselves. So that's where they see, kind of that they see that being the answer to that need that they have. So this is where we have to understand that, this message is being given, it's being taught in the school systems typically as well, that you're just an animal, right? When is the last time that you saw one of these figures like doing Salatul Layl, right? Or, wearing the hijab, for example, like, that doesn't happen because they're animals, right? And many other things, Okay, so I'm going to give some examples now of where we can see this practically. One of them is in appealing to shahwa, and this happens at a very young age, and it's important for us to realize this, that even in kids' movies, some of these things are brought up. This is from Toy Story 3.
Ken, where you hissed that boy? Ken, new toys.
Far out. Down in a jiff, Lotso.
This is meant for kids, but you're seeing here, these are adults, and what are these adults doing? They're doing adult-like things, right? And of course, in a very and all these are things which go against the teachings of Islam.
Hi,
okay,
I'm Ken.
And even in something like Zootopia, right? Which a lot of parents, are totally fine with their kids watching. And I mean, this is just a small example. There's so many of them out there. You can see that, there's this scene here, okay, where normally the animals are wearing clothes, but here it's the pleasure area where they're not, and they're doing whatever they're going to be doing here. So he's like, okay, well, does it make you uncomfortable for this? And she's like, no, I'm going to go and,
Boy, that's a spirit.
And then there's all these different animals. Anyway, whatever it is that's there. Game of Thrones was a show that many people around the world are or were watching, and unfortunately it found its way into the homes of the believers as well. And if you just look at the types of, just there's so many things you could talk about, but like just from the types of relationships that you have, even incestual relationships, it's there. It's there. You have like the father and the daughter and whatever it may be. Here they have, for example, this article, the 10 most shocking moments from blood and beheadings to rape and incest from that show, and they're talking about different things that happen. Even in the video games that are meant for children, like Roblox is one of the most popular. I find in my experience that most times parents, they're sold on it. They think that, okay, because it's Lego-like figures, so therefore it's a perfectly safe game. But as my own experience in working with children is that they come across like things, even in Roblox, which are very inappropriate. We have examples of children who have been actually like raped through Roblox. And it's been traumatic for them. It's left a permanent scar. Of course, it's not a physical thing, but it's happening with their character, and it's something which leaves a scar on them. And this is something which, like when it comes to the language that's used, the people who are there, a lot of times, like, when the care isn't taken by the parents, then children, they tend to be exposed to a lot. We also have to realize that, the idea that, that like the whole issue of exposure, like especially, with those children who are given their own devices. I mean, statistics show that, they're alarming, when you look at the number of percentages of even children who access pornography, especially in the pandemic now, with there being more screen time. There's been an increase, in many countries have, that you see this, even in different articles that report the increase in terms of like the amount of exposure to this type of content. And the age at which addiction starts is getting lower and lower. And through personal experience, like we know of examples of children who were as young as like in what we call second grade or grade 2, where they can become addicted to this, or in some cases even younger, where they get exposed to it, and then it can cause like a lot of damage going forward. And this is not a parenting seminar, so there's a lot to talk about when it comes to parents for this. But as educators, we need to be aware that, and it's good for us to have that some training as well to look out for those signs, because sometimes there's certain things that we can see that maybe the parents aren't even aware. And we need to know, especially for those of you who are teaching Islamic topics, then you have to know that, what is it that's sometimes you're going against here. That's appealing to the shahwa. And there's, again, a lot of things that we could talk about. But now what about the ghadab side? The idea that part of one of our lower instincts, which is there for a reason, is that instinct to survive and to deflect negative things. Usually it's translated as anger, but anger is just one example of ghadab, meaning the al-quwwatul ghadabiyya, what's, that faculty of the soul. There's many other manifestations of it. But one of the things about a human being is that they enjoy being able to exercise their ghadab. And the media has, realized this. Like if you think about movies from the past, like Rambo and Terminator and those type of things, like they get somebody's testosterone pumping and adrenaline flowing, and they're like all like macho and that type of thing. And now you have video games that similarly appeal to that aspect of a human being. And sometimes you watch like kids who or even teenagers or even adults who normally are very civil, but when they start playing the games, they turn into a different type of person, and they'll start swearing, they'll start like shouting, they'll throw things, they might even get violent in extreme cases. This is one thing when I'm talking to children, I usually ask them this question. I say that, what do you think? Are these good qualities to have? Is it good to be like bloodthirsty, merciless, ruthless, and brutal? And then they're like, no, obviously. So I'm like, okay, well, who would you describe that in history who was like this? And usually, like, I get two answers. One of them is Hitler, and the other one is Yazid. Okay, and then I'm like, okay, well, what if you were rewarded for having these type of qualities? And they're like, well, that's terrible. I was like, okay, well, what about this? You have a video game which actually rewards you for these different things. Okay. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, I just wanted we need to understand what type of this is probably the most popular game for, I don't know, like a decade, right? So we need to be aware of especially those who have prolonged exposure to it. Like, what is it that they're seeing? So this is a clip from the latest version of Call of Duty.
Heads up. Scouts on the ridge front. We should drop them now before we get any closer. Nice. Let's keep moving.
Да точно. Торопись, здесь холодно.
You take one fuckwit, I'll get the other.
Head into cover.
Good kill. Shit, this is dicey. But hey, if it's good enough to...
So anyway, it's not just there's also some yeah, it's quite I'm sorry for those of you who are offended. I should have put the disclaimer there before that, but it's quite gory, it's quite lifelike, it's quite vivid, and the whole time, like, what is the view? The view is like through a gun barrel, right? And you get like, you saw it was like good kill, like you did a good job, right? That's the way you should do it. And there's swear words and that type of thing, right? Now, when psychologists have looked at this, and they've looked at this question, that do video games lead to desensitization? Does it promote like a violent and aggressive behavior? The evidence is not conclusive, meaning that it seems that to some extent, video games can be useful in terms of developing skills and coordination and teamwork and some of the other things. But from a psychological perspective, when it's done to the extreme, then it has been shown to cause some aggressive behavior or violent behavior. But beyond that, I mean, I think that we have to just ask intuitively, like you have to ask your intuition. Like if you are spending many hours of your day looking at things through the barrel of a gun, right? What kind of impact is that going to have on your tarbiyah, on your spiritual upbringing? Right? It's a basic question that I think anybody who has an intuition, they'll be able to answer that this is not something which is beneficial for our children. And in fact, it can be very destructive. Okay. But my point is what? Is this idea of promoting the animalistic side of the human being. Another very popular game is GTA. And you'd think with everything, all the, like, it's one of those games which is known to be like, out there when it comes to like its sexual content, when it comes to its violence. Here in it, there's a scene where you have to, like, after beating people with a hammer, to go and
I think that's
you
funny,
have to like basically like
a lot of people.
You have to torture this man who's here. You have to torture him. You can't like bypass this scene. When you get injured in the game, one of the ways of getting healed is to like, engage in certain relationships with, certain people. Anyway, it's something which has like the lowest of the low, and you get rewarded for it. It's supposed to be like, enjoyment and entertainment. But in my experience and just asking, when in those times when, let's say children have opened up and they've said, what's actually going on, I'm shocked at how many of them actually played it, so somehow they have access to it. And then another thing to realize is that there's been a lot of growth in the fantasy area. Now, again, I want to emphasize that I'm not saying that all this it's not a halal haram discussion. It's more about trying to understand the nature of what's being portrayed and what kind of impact is it having on the children. So one of the areas of growth in movies and books has been the fantasy area. And whether it be Harry Potter or, Game of Thrones or whatever it may be. Now, how we talked about appealing to like the different, faculties of the soul. So one of them is al-quwwatul wahmiya. And there is benefit in, in having children be imaginative and creative, and definitely it's fine, but there's a limit to everything. And when somebody is imprisoned in that world of fantasy, and at that age when they're supposed to be in touch with reality, then it can be harmful to their upbringing. You find it's quite common. You'll find preteens, even teenagers, like they're much more living in this pseudo online world that's been created for them. They're much more there than they are, in the reality of the world that we're in. And, they're very, very removed from, let's say, things around like what's happening in the world right now, what's injustice and justice, like, that type of thing, that they don't feel at all empowered to be able to make a change in the world. Oftentimes the way that Imam of our time is presented is like a myth, a legend and one of the things that really saddens me is when I ask students, a lot of times I ask them, I say that like, how many of you believe that the Imam is going to do the dhuhr in your lifetime? It's rare that I have even a majority of the class raise their hands, whereas we're supposed to have that type of hope that it's supposed to happen like, like tonight or tomorrow. Like that's the way we're supposed to be, like very, very hopeful and working towards that. So given this, okay, given that these are, and these are just some examples, we could talk about it more, but this is just I wanted to present the concepts. How can we educate students about the potential harms of such screen media? How can we structure assignments? Like if you're assigning your students certain things, how can we do it in a way that it promotes the spiritual side of human beings? How can we ensure that students who are exposed will receive the knowledge they need from the right sources, and students who aren't exposed won't be exposed prematurely? And this comes up a lot for those of you maybe who are dealing with teenagers. When you have like discussion circles with them, or you have like those gender separated classes, then it's like you're always playing this like like delicate balance, because on one hand you want to get them the answers they need, but on the other hand you want to be careful about what you say. So I wanted to put that out there as questions. I have something to say about them, but I wanted to first give a few minutes for any of you to contribute your thoughts. Bismillah. Yes, Sister Neelam.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm a teacher of madrasa and also a mother of a teenager. And one of the things I've realized in my life is that as a parent and as a teacher, we have to be aware of what's going on in life. We have to be aware of what's out there to be able to address these challenges that we have. Now, as a parent, as a teacher, one of the things I find is when you tell the parents that are you aware of such games and the games that your child is playing? Because, they'll come and they'll tell me, oh, I spent the whole of last night playing PUBG and I don't know what it is. Unfortunately, my son will tell me, Mom, these games are really violent and he laughs sometimes. I feel sorry for him, but I get a lot of information from him. But when I tell the parents, it's really sad that they're not aware of what the children are watching or playing. They're so gullible. They feel that everything out there, even say a game for 7+ is fine.
Yes.
I think our ignorance as adults is our main, I would say, issue.
Yes.
That is there for us, I think.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Sister, for sharing that. On that note, it is important for any school, obviously in a full-time school, but even in, let's say, the weekend school efforts, especially those who are dealing with like the contemporary issues, for them to be aware of the trends, and this is the knowledge sharing that has to take place. And so, like, for example, in the schools that I've been part of, like, we make it a point to always be polling the teachers, asking them, like, well, what's going on, in your classrooms. We talk to the alumni and ask them, okay, well, now that you graduated, like, what are the things that you're facing? And this idea of gathering this information is very important and being aware of it. Now, sometimes it's taken to the extreme where, it's like, oh, well, I need to like join all the social media and be friends with all the students and everything so I can know exactly what's going on. That I would say may not be the best strategy, because some of the stuff is just, it probably would be damaging even for, let's say, the teacher who's involved, just to be part of and be exposed to some of the things. But again, keeping tabs, being aware is very important. So thank you for that, Sister. Okay, let's hear from, okay, I see a number of people they have their hands up. So let me call on, I'm sorry, I don't know who had their hand up first, but let me call on Sister Kulsum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam.
I would like to our own experience along with our children who are both teenagers. And
Sister, is there any way that you could speak up? I'm finding it a bit difficult to hear you.
More than 90% among the boys who are into video games or the things which you have mentioned just now. So the one fine way which we have found, to slowly get them away and sideline them into, away from these media and games, was getting them into sports. And it has really, given us a lot of good results, that their focus on sports. Suppose, for example, one of my sons, who is almost 18 now, he is into cricket. And the second one is into Rubik's Cube. So, that has helped us in channelizing the addiction, or though they are odd among their friends, because none of them are into, many of them are not into sports, but it has helped us to get rid, and alhamdulillah, they are not, attracted so much by such kind of video games, or, their peer group. They know, okay, when our friends all are speaking about, they all are watching video games, they just seclude themselves from that. So I think this can be, sports is one of the things which can help us, get teenagers and adolescents a bit away from these shaitani things happening around to get him attracted.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for your comments, sister. I wanted to just make a comment on that when it comes to the role of a teacher, oftentimes, we as educators, we can teach students things by like indirectly, and sometimes the best teaching is not necessarily the thing that's in the book. It's more about how to approach life, how to view it, and how to live it. And sometimes by promoting some of these things like healthy, positive sports, for example, or reading healthy books, or like let's say going hiking, depending on where you are. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Going hiking, or let's say a type of hobby that, for example, stargazing, or let's say some type of intellectual activity. These are things which can very much like have an influence on students, and sometimes much more effective than even when parents do it. I remember when my daughter, at one time, when she was a bit younger, one of my daughters, she was drinking more milk than usual, and we asked why. It's like, well, because my teacher, like she was drinking milk or whatever, she was promoting it. So, and I'm sure all of you have experiences in this as well too. So I think that's really important. Okay, and let's hear from Sister Nada.
Sorry. One of the things that has bothered me as I watched my kids watching certain Islamic movies and non-Islamic movie, is, as you said, the lack of realism, or sometimes even stories that I'm not sure are accurate, or they're accurate or not. Like, for example, even the movie of the mother of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. There was the butterfly that was following her around. I feel all these, or as you say, and the superheroes going further than what the human is able to do. I feel it's really important. One of the things that we do when we present media is that we make them aware of these things, like or give them an idea that there is something inaccurate in this type of the information that they are receiving. Awareness is a strong tool, and it should always be done before we present anything. And to have them feel like, to make them, that sometimes when I tell kids about something, they look at me when certain scenes come, because they remember what I said. So I find that's one of the most important things of how we deal with media, is to see it beforehand, be aware of it, and educate them before they're presented with it, so they know that, okay, so they come with it with a mindset of awareness.
Yes.
And I completely agree with the idea of extracurricular activities. It's one of the things I'm trying to work on with some parents, that it's really necessary that we are fully aware what's available. The more kids get out and do things and stay away from just being cooped up and with the social media and all that stuff, the better. Whether it's writing courses, or as you said, stargazing, or any kind of extracurricular or sports, the more and the problem is, a lot of parents, especially with now pandemic, they don't know what to do. And this is something I feel lacking. Sometimes we tell them, go do this. Good parents, it's really good that there's something going on in media that's bad. We explain to them what's going on, but we don't give them actual practical steps. We don't tell them, sometimes we say, look at this website, but no, we need to be more detailed in how we show them what's going on, specific activities that take place in specific times, give them heads up, give them ideas. I feel this is lacking in most of the communities, wherever
Yes.
that we may be.
Yes,
Sorry.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I fully agree with your comments, sister, and I wanted to say that you know, I gather from the comments that are being made that many of you are involved with like Sunday schools or Saturday schools, weekend schools. So one of the responsibilities that these schools can take on perhaps is being able to form these type of networks, you know, for, you know, and the goal is basically to, like, you know, to allow children to lead a real life, you know, to grow up with like a, you know, a real childhood. But it happens, it's one of those things that can only happen if we work together. And, you know, like here, for example, locally, just to share my own experience, like, you know, I make it a point, you know, to go hiking every other week with parents, with fathers of like sons who are the same age as my son, because we're like, we needed to do something, and this has been really effective. And there's other things like that that can be done and that are being done, but sometimes it can be more effective than, let's say, teaching a lot of stuff in the class, because this has to do with like lifestyle, you know, and sometimes you can be teaching a lot, but then it gets undone with what the children are seeing in the screen. I know that many of you have comments to offer, and I'm sure they're wonderful, but just in the interest of time, I am going to, with my apologies, I'm going to have to move forward, but please feel free to type out your thoughts in the chat window. Okay, the third category is individualism. So, you know, internet, social media, you know, there's a lot of focus on, you know, giving voice to the self. Here you see this, like, you know, meme type of thing. You have to offer people something, a joke, an opinion, an idea, somehow just, you know, be part, contribute, you know, your ideas. And we see in the, you know, just as an example, in the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt, the idea of, you know, one's opinion can be the cause of one's downfall. And, you know, like, giving an opinion is not necessarily a bad thing, but there's, you know, it's for certain people who have reached the point where they're able to give that opinion. It's supposed to come after gaining knowledge, and that's just part of it. I mean, there's a lot more more to individualism. The idea of, you know, of giving voice to the individual. It's the idea of being able to express one's true self and of feeling like not constrained. That's kind of, those are the different aspects, other aspects of individualism, and we're going to show some examples of right now. YouTube. Why is YouTube called YouTube? Because the founders, you know, they wanted it to be the case that the videos are contributed by the individuals themselves. Like, you know, we don't need to, we're going to break the paradigm where there's this company out there that's making the content. It's no, the people themselves should be able to contribute the content. So it's giving voice to the self. Everyone, you know, a lot of people admire stars, right? And this has always been the case. But in the past, it was always something like, okay, well, there's the stars who are out there. But now, like, what if we can make, what if anybody can become a star? And it's like, oh, okay, so anybody can become a star. And now, you know, this idea of becoming a star, you know, like, on what basis do people become stars and celebrities? Typically, right? Typically, it's through like singing, through, you know, dance, through like good looks, and, you know, these type of things, right? And sometimes, yeah, it's for other reasons. Mostly, it's those type of things. So for our children, you'll see that they also you see this a lot, like this thing of like, well, I'm going to be a star as well. You know, I'm going to be a famous YouTuber. I'm going to be like, you know, a popular TikToker or whatever, you know, popular user of TikTok. I'm going, and it's going to be about me. I'm going to be in the spotlight. So this is something that, you know, this mentality is there. It's present. TikTok has become, or if not, it's going to become the most popular social media app for the younger generation. For those of you who haven't used TikTok, I'm just going to show you an example of the type of video right here that you'd see on TikTok.
Corvette. Hop in a motherfucking jet like that. Him like that, him like that. They were like, Pop, why you all like that? Why you talk like that? Why you all like that?
Okay, so you notice that, first of all, it was short, okay, which is typical of TikTok videos. Second of all, there was a soundtrack, and it seems that all or most of TikTok videos do have the soundtrack, and that's something which the app makes it, when you're creating content, it's very easy to create content. It's very easy to like choose the soundtrack that goes along with it. And the soundtrack actually, in this case, the video was more of like, it was a dance video. So, usually like, this is very common, like where the person will either be dancing or will be lip syncing, the words of the song. Now here, he took a fall, and that's why it was something that, it became popular, because he fell. But there could be, you can easily see, like, I can just ask yourself, what type of things would make it be something that's really attractive, that would really like get popularity and views. So here is, if you just look at of the top 15, what kind of people are have the most followers on TikTok? And you'll see here that many of them are singers or dancers, or actors or actresses. Okay, and yes, you will find other types of professions and other people on TikTok, but they're not the ones who are the most popular. When it comes to the most liked videos, you'll see that a number of them, again, have to do with like dancing. Yes, you do have a few, like, for example, giving food to a homeless man. I don't know exactly what this is about, but like the wind wave, best friends check. I don't know what that's about, but most of them have to do with like music and dancing. All right, so this is important to note, because it is very popular, and a lot of kids are on it. So like this, when, even though it can be used, to like just watch, let's say, things with halal music, and just watch, like, say, recipes, and where everyone's dressed decently and nobody's dancing, and typically, though, this is the typical usage of the app. And the way it's structured is that when you finish one, it goes on to the next one, and there's a very powerful algorithm that determines what's coming next. Obviously, they're going to use it to promote the things they want to promote. Now, I'm spending a bit of time on it because it's important for us to have this awareness. When, in the past, there was a lot more of like consuming content. Like, let's say YouTube, even though you could make your own YouTube videos, it was harder. But now the barrier has been lowered. It's a lot easier to create that content. In a way, people could say that, okay, well, now, there's more freedom, because now anybody can become that star and that celebrity. Yes, on one hand, but on the other hand, in a way, it's also an illusion, because you're not really free to do whatever you want. You have to move your body in a certain way. If you want to do like a dance video, if you want to sing, whose words are you going to use? You want to be part of setting a new trend. Well, who created those trends? And you could make the argument that in many cases you're just a puppet. You're being, whatever it is, whoever's creating these trends, whoever's making the music, in a way they're using, all these millions of users, for their own benefit, like to like promote their own ideas. Now, yeah, okay, there is a lot of room for creativity, and you can do a new thing. You can make like magic tricks. You can, like, let's say, do stunts. You can do something you can be very clever and do something that others can't do. You can be very creative with video editing and create this incredible sort of visual thing. So it's not the case that this is only it, but this is something that is also there. When it comes to humor, this is very important, because the way what people laugh about, in a way, it shows some aspect of their character. And here you find that the humor is just it's like taken to another dimension, and the way that, because now people can do the video editing, and there's so much capabilities, you can make things seem real. So now the ability to make people laugh, it's just it's a lot like more enhanced. And I was just remembering, this hadith of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. One time he was walking in the streets of Medina, and there was the town's jokester who was passing by, and he liked to play practical jokes, and so he came and he like tugged at the Imam's aba, and he ran away with it or something like that. So the Imam wasn't impressed. We do have examples of the Imams, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where they appreciated humor, but it was tasteful humor. It was something which where it involved some subtlety. It involved like it left like a type of like good feeling and brotherhood, camaraderie. But there's also a type of humor where it's just crude. It's actually demeaning. It promotes like negative values. That wasn't the humor that you find that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam would appreciate. In TikTok, you have like instant entertainment. The barrier has been lowered. People can become famous, but at what cost? You can see here, this was a New York Times article from 2019, and you can see here of what type of this club that they created at their school, what type of skit was it that was most popular? That's not uncommon. Like you find people doing these things, like it's like, well, really, is that? Oh no, it's just a big joke, for example. And it's like, well, is it a joke really? Like maybe there's some truth to it. And if we look at the trends that are there with Generation Z, what they call the post-millennial, which maybe as many of the students that you're dealing with are Generation Z. So there is this concept of like fluidity in many areas, of expression of individual truth, of being open to change, and the technology they use is something which goes hand in hand with these aspects. So for those of you who are dealing with teenagers, these are concepts that need to be dealt with like in a very proper way. It's in a very like intellectually rigorous manner, and they need to be presented, and the Islamic position on these need to be presented. When I was looking and doing some research on TikTok, I was reminded about this hadith, which it's a hadith which I think you can probably find relevance, in what's happening today. Nabi Yahya alayhi salam, as part of the hadith, he asked Iblis, he says that what is this bell that you have in your hand? There's a hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, but he quotes it. He says that, what is this bell that you have in your hand? So Iblis, he saw him in his true form, so he had a bell. He says, what is this? He said, this is the collection of every delight, consisting of the tanboor, the lute, the string instrument, the drum, the reed pipe, and the trumpet. There are people who gather together and drink alcohol, but sometimes that's not enough for them to like really get them to lose their aql and to just be kind of lightheaded and act drunk. So they do not derive pleasure for doing so. So I strike the bell in their presence. When they hear it, the emotion they experience makes them feel light. Now, some of them start to dance, others tap their fingers, and others start to remove their clothing. I'm just saying that, like, that some of the aspects of this hadith, they remind me of the type of things that are being promoted through this type of media. And what is it that makes somebody, or what is it that makes certain clips popular?
I have a question related to that incident, if you don't mind me asking right now, please.
Okay.
So we use bell in the school. Is that okay? And sometimes I use it at home we use it in a madrasa, and I use it at home if I want to call my little one for story time, just gets him excited because it's used in the school, so they can relate to it, that, it's just action time. And so what are your thoughts on use of bell in schools? And
I think that's fine. That's fine. Yes.
Yep.
This trend of the hijabis removing their hijab, like the hijabi influencers, those who have like millions of followers, a number of them in 20 2019, 2020, they did this. Like, they were the ones who would have the latest styles, and then they removed their hijab. And in speaking with university-aged students in the communities I'm familiar with, this is a trend that's also there among those who follow the influencers. I mean, they are being influenced by this. And what is it that's going on here? It's when I asked some of the university students for their perspective, and they said that it's kind of like the same idea of individualism, that the culture of social media makes one feel that what they are doing is okay. When the new post receives likes and comments of support, becomes a form of approval and acceptance that the action might not be getting in real life. When she decides to take off her hijab, she seeks validation from her peers. And unfortunately, many Muslims even end up supporting such posts by liking, commenting. This idea that you can be your own person, you make your own decisions. It's totally fine. Like, it's it's all about you. And again, that when we're like, as educators, like this idea of identity, who am I? Who are you? We are an abd of Allah. We are an abd of Allah. I think this idea of abd, ubudiyya, ta'abbud, it's something which, from a very young age, this is what we should take pride in. Yes, we have our own creativity, we have our own talents, but we have to be always looking at seeing how can we measure our actions against an absolute standard, not a standard which is self-established for ourselves of what's right and what's wrong. Okay, so here's where I would like to get a bit of feedback from all of you. Given that screen media promotes individualism and much of the content available is based on taste and opinion, what implications does this have on designing research, projects, and assignments? How can empathy and compassion be promoted as values in face of individualism and narcissism? How can the spirit of ta'abbud, subservience to God's command, be promoted over hawa, obeying one's opinion and low desire? When creating our own media, because we like, let's say you want to give an assignment to make a video, for example, make a skit, whatever it is, or eventually, maybe some of you want to be part of actually creating, movies or shows or cartoons, whatever. What should we promote and what should we avoid? Okay, Sister Fatima, hey there, please go ahead.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I think just talking about the exact questions, so I'll try and address, give my thoughts on these. I think this Generation Z, as we talk about, as we call them, they're very proud of the fact, which I get to hear from my teenage son a lot, that they are very, this new concept of being woke is very, very in these days, right? So they are very much into all these concepts, even activism for that matter. They feel that they are here to change the world and all that sort of thing. So I think we should try and tap into those, into that concept, and in appropriately Islamic ways, because the media is here to stay. All these influences are here to stay. We have to be very vigilant as parents. I feel it's now most important that, I think vigilance is key for me as a parent. I just have to always be looking out on what's out there and keeping myself updated and making sure that the children are appropriately informed. But yes, I think that is an idea we should be tapping into and trying to come up with ideas which will help this Generation Z to direct those activist efforts into those in Islamic and in proper ways. That's something I feel is very important, especially for the youth.
Thank you very much, Sister Fatima. Okay, Sister Nilam.
On the point of empathy, like I said, over the years, I talked to many scholars or ladies who come to recite majalis here, and they've been to Hausa, and I was talking to one of them, and I was actually complaining about the youths and how they've changed. And she said to me, "Sit down. I want to tell you something." She said, "Try empathizing with them. Do you really think it's their fault completely that they've been surrounded with these things?" And I think that has played such a major role in my change in the way I look at things now. So instead of complaining about, what the kids are doing and they shouldn't be doing this, etc., I actually try and empathize with them and say to myself, is it their fault? If I was in their place, how would I be acting? Would I have been doing what they've been doing? And no, obviously I would, because I'm influenced by my surroundings and everything that's being bombarded. So I think empathy is such an important thing for me when I look at all these issues that we have with media.
Thank you so much, Sister Nilam, for that. Sister Ruqayya?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
So I think this session for me today has heightened my awareness about this media, and these are things we know, but they've been nicely put, and questions that are making me think a little bit deeper, and perhaps I'll being more intentional with the choices of how we teach and how we approach certain things in life. Obviously, I feel that I now have even more questions because there are so many aspects, and I really see this media influence not only something that Muslims are fighting against. This is sort of like all human beings, because if kids watching video games turn them into violent kids, it doesn't only affect the Muslim kids, it affects those who are not Muslims, but then they mix with our kids, because if kids go to public schools, these are the individuals that you meet and interact with. So I am still wondering, if the goal of this session, which I think is a really good goal, but it's just the beginning of the conversation, is to raise our level of awareness. And once that has happened, what do we then do? You've mentioned in some of the slides, it's really, really hard to compete. Even the media that we have available, promoting faith and what have you, it's really hard to compete that with what Disney is bringing up. It's the same thing with the books that we read with the kids. So the kids kind of know when they come to the Sunday school, that's almost like the parenthesis. And then they go back to the real world, and their real world is about all these other things. So I guess I'm feeling a little, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but like now we have this problem, now what? Like what's next? Because we can all say it's not good to watch this, it's not good to read Harry Potter, superheroes are damaging. I think we all are aware and agree to that. But how do we move on from here?
Well, thank you for your comments, sister. I first of all, like on the area of awareness, I do think that a lot of times people look at things black and white, and they're like, okay, is it haram or is it halal? So if it's like, let's say, inappropriate dressing or whatever, then they're like, okay, it's bad. But if it's not, then it's okay. But one of the purposes of the seminar was to try to look at things in a deeper way and try to understand how it's not just about haram and halal. It's also about, what type of ethics are being conveyed and the morals and the values, and also what are the ideologies being conveyed. Okay, and that level of awareness is something that maybe is lacking in a lot of maybe people who aren't so analytic, or didn't have a chance to think about it. Then they haven't noticed that. So that was one of the things to raise the awareness. Second of all is to for educators, once you know that this is what's there, this is the reality on the ground. In many cases, we can give advice to parents and about what they can do. And I see, just briefly skimming some of the comments, I see this being put out there, like this idea of prevention before cure. So parents also need to do certain things of limiting and putting time limits, and not giving their kids devices and other things. But at the end of the day, to some extent, they are going to be exposed to these things. So how can we as educators take that into account when we're planning our lessons, when we're choosing curriculum, when we're writing curriculum, when we're looking at what is the job, our job as teachers? Is it to go through this book, or is it to to be able to acknowledge that, let's say if somebody na'udhu is addicted to, or they're watching pornography, then maybe some of these things we need to put aside the book and get down to the real issue. So some of these things, it's to kind of guide us as educators. And lastly, I do have some suggestions, which I'm going to be ending with, inshallah, which is one of the other outcomes of the seminar. So thank you for bringing up and clarifying that. When it comes to, I know that a couple other people have their hands up, but with my apologies, I think that because of the time reasons, I am going to request you to hold your comments here. What I would like to do is to just present a couple more slides, inshallah, and then if we have some time at the end, then maybe we can get back to the comments. So, let me just kind of, rather than going through it, I just want to maybe highlight the topics I wanted to just bring up is, that when it comes to, one of the topics that we always talk about in Sunday school is gambling. And sometimes in the past, I was like, okay, well, obviously Muslims aren't going to go to casinos. Although lately, I've heard of or met people actually within the community, within the larger Shia community in North America, where it's a problem, and they actually are going to casinos. But beyond that, now even in the video games, this is there, and this idea of loot boxes, and so it's something that that the idea of making use of the same techniques that casinos do to be able to capture their customers, that's being used in video games and in social media. There's a clip of one of the prominent psychologists and doctors who approaches things from a faith perspective. He's not a Muslim, but he is a person of faith, and he has some good things to offer. And inshallah, this will be part of the slides that will be shared with you later on, which I'll leave it to that time. The idea of social media and addiction, the connection between social media, depression, and suicide. For those of you who, again, are dealing with middle school age and secondary school age students, this is something that it's a real problem in the community. All the things that come about through, whatever, shaming or body image issues, social media addiction. I did do this seminar on this topic that I showed the link to at the beginning of the presentation, and those of you who are interested, you can definitely access that on YouTube. So I wanted to end my comments with just 2 slides, or 2 or 3 slides of just ending tips and guidelines. So first of all, as teachers, you can play an important role by just raising awareness. And I know that some of you have made these comments earlier, but just raising awareness about social media. When many children might not even hear about this concept that, okay, well, you have to be careful that from everything to video games to social media, I mean, there is a large part of it where it's addictive, it's damaging, it can take you away from God, it can take you away from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So just raising awareness at a young age about this before it becomes something where it's too late, where they don't have any way of resisting. The idea of promoting a balanced living, that as teachers, when you show for the students yourself, them through your own example, that I don't just spend all my time in front of my phone, right? We as a family, we go hiking, we go to the park, we have sports, we spend time with other families. Even during the pandemic, the idea of promoting healthy socialization at a distance. Okay, well, however that can be done. These are things which will make a difference. As educators, you can give the students. And I like the suggestion of that sister who was saying that we shouldn't just quote like websites. We should actually talk about real ideas. And this is something that we can really be part of, like whether it be through initiatives, competitions, clubs. This is something which can be very, very useful. And maybe when we talk about what does it mean to have a faith community, is it just that we meet for dua komel? Well, that's great if you do that, but beyond that, like these are the real needs that we have living in the West. For those who are living in the West or even in the East, of like when we're in a society where we don't have, we can't just rely on the society to provide these things. The idea of promoting healthy family bonds and healthy friendships, this is super important, especially when it comes to like mental health, and the problems that are being faced now. So, especially at a younger age, promoting family, talking about, whatever's being presented to them in the media is anti-family typically. The father, for example, is presented as a very weak figure. So these are things that we can address specifically, talk about how the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they were the perfect family, and they had the qualities of like, love and power, and the father figures were leaders, and they were good fathers, kind fathers, but they were intelligent, unlike what they presented in the typical show out there. Demonstrating love and respect for your students, model the behavior you want from your students, live in the presence of Allah and the presence of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. This is something that we can't emphasize enough, because when somebody is living in a screen and it's just a world of materialism, it's very hard for them, like their soul sometimes might even lose the ability to like ascend to anything higher than that. But by being in the company of people who are themselves in the remembrance of Allah, that's something which is very powerful. So yes, part of your time is preparing your lessons and learning how to be good teachers and participating in workshops and classes like you guys are doing, but part of it is in dhikr of Allah. Okay, and believing in the power of an education and the educator. This is, you can play a huge role in the lives of your students. There's a hadith that it's very important for us to remember and also to share with our students. Oh Hisham, if there be a walnut in your hand and the people say it is a pearl in your hand, this saying of theirs will not provide you any benefit when you know that it is a walnut. And if there's a pearl in your hand and people say it is a walnut, there will be no harm to you while you know that it is a pearl. Oftentimes in the societies that we live in, we're faced with this dilemma. Everyone out there is saying that, if you want to be a pearl, then you have to be this way, and you have to dress this way, and you have to act this way. And we're clinging to the traditions of truth, which tell us many times something different. So how is it that we can actually fight this? We're swimming up against the current. Well, we can do that through education and tarbiyah. Okay, so with that, I am going to end my comments. I understand that you have another class coming up.
Sheikh, can we quickly look at that slide, the last one with the Imam Ali's hadith, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
This one?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so this one is about the importance of education, of Islamic education. Like Imam Islam says, hurry to raise your children on the basis of the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt before the Murji'a get to them. The Murji'a were the people at that time who were promoting this, kind of a fake ideology. The idea that just be a good person. You don't have to like actually do practice and be committed to Sharia. You'll be fine. So the Ahlul Bayt, like they consider this to be a threat to the children. But how did they say that we're supposed to fight them? Through education. Teach your children from our knowledge by which what Allah will cause them to benefit, so that the Murji'a are not able to overpower with them with their views.
Thank you very much, Sheikhana. I know, unfortunately, a lot of people do have questions, but we are out of time. And we do have another class that we must prepare for. I did put up the Sheikh Salim's email address on the chat, and also we will send out the slides and also the video in the email with the Sheikh that he presented tonight. Also, we were supposed to share the slides and the video from last week, but there was a little delay due to some reasons. But we'll send them together, inshallah, either Monday or Tuesday at the latest. And thank you everyone, and especially I would like to thank Sheikh Salim for this week's for giving us this time for this week. And I know we could have benefited a lot more, inshallah. And I would encourage everyone to check out his amazing courses on the Rise Academy channel on the YouTube. If you go to the Al-Kisa YouTube channel, you should see it over there. One of the channels that we've subscribed to, so you can go and check it out there, inshallah. Without any further ado, I would like to end the program. Sheikh Salim, if you can do dua, please, inshallah.
Sure. I just wanted to quickly acknowledge all the comments. I'm sorry I wasn't able to respond to all of them. Sister Hajar Taqi, if you could please share that media from the Christian groups with me, I would really appreciate that. And anybody else who has any specific like links, resources, please do share it with me so that inshallah, if I get an opportunity, I can share it with others. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى واجعل عواقب أمورنا خيرا ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين أبدا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
Thanks everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.